What's going on, everyone? Steven here from TechMaker.tv. I think this is actually part 6 in our Building a Blog with Rails 6 series. I'll have to go back and double check. We did a couple that weren't titled with the episode number, but in any case, we're getting back to that today. In this episode, what we're going to do is actually start setting up the front end. So we have this kind of nice back end that we started. There's certainly more to do. But if we go to the root path, we just get an empty page right now that says home index. So we're going to start to fix that here. As always, if you like this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. So I actually have a kind of side thing that I'm interested in doing here before we set up the front end, and I just want to try something really quick. So if we inspect in our console over here, this action text from Rails by default has this sort of big and small font kind of thing, and we're going to have an H1 tag for the title. And I think what would be great is if this was actually an H2. We may get a little more deep into the semantic stuff later, but for now I'm thinking like something like an H2 would be fine, but it certainly doesn't need to be an H1. And if you haven't followed along up to this point, you'll probably need to go check out what we've done so far to see what's going on. But in a nutshell, we have multiple sections, so I'm thinking each section could have its own title, and I would like that to be an H2, not an H1, or at least some other tag. So with a little bit of Googling, I came across this, and I thought that this might be the answer, so let's give this a try. So apparently we just need to drop this into our application.js. So let's try that really fast. So we have tricks already right here, and then we have action text. And so actually we don't set tricks anywhere, so we could say const tricks equals, and then maybe set it like that. So let's just save that, and then let's go refresh and see if anything changes, because I'm actually not sure what's going to happen here. Like, is it going to automatically update? It doesn't look like it did. So if we save that now, let's see what's in here. So now it's just strong. Let's make it big again, save, and refresh. And let's have a look at it actually. Let's see. Okay, so now it's in an H3 tag, and it looks a lot bigger because actually I think that probably pulls from some default in tricks or action text or something, because I don't think we defined anything that would specify that. So let's just check on this other one over here really quick. See H1, tricks content H1. So I'm going to just copy this and just assume that that will work. So let's open up this action text, tricks content, and then right inside of here, I'm going to put an H3 and just paste this stuff, and let's go back and look. I'm doing that just because I like the way this looks in our editor. We may need to change this because we might want to display this differently on our front end, which we'll get to just in a second. But I want to go ahead and just blow all these things up on all these posts so that these are right, just at least the published ones. Okay, so we'll make all these H3s. So essentially you have these sections, and you're going to have these H3 section titles. Okay, so let's have a look at that and just double check that is what we want. I think it should be. Yeah, so now we have H3s everywhere. So we're going to have an H1, which is the title, and then we're going to have sections, and you can, I mean, this is rich text, so you can do it however you like, but if you make it this big one, if you blow it up, then it's going to be an H3. Okay, cool. So we needed to fix that because I didn't want to have a bunch of H1 tags hanging around everywhere. But now we should be able to start worrying about the front end. So what we want to do is turn our attention to this page. So we have authentication on the post controller and all of that, so you should be fine. You shouldn't need to worry about that. But out here, we haven't done anything yet, and we don't actually want, well, let's see. So let me kind of refresh my memory about what we have. So in our views, we have an author's layout, which is kind of messed up looking right now. We have this font awesome icon thing here, and then we have a container with some notices and stuff, and we're putting a class in here of authors. Application doesn't have anything in it yet, really. It's just kind of the default. So what could we do? We could create a, how should we go about this? I might do this. Let's create, I'm kind of making this up as I go right now, so hopefully it works out well. Let's create a layout called public html.erb. Maybe public isn't the right word here. What would be good? Readers. So we have authors and readers. So we're sort of naming our different user groups better, maybe. So I'm going to just copy all of this for now. I don't believe we need any icons yet. If we do, we can add them back. That script tag is messing up my syntax highlighting for some reason. We will want the bootstrap stuff, so we'll leave that. I don't know, we definitely don't want to have authors here, we want to have readers. I don't know if we'll keep all this structure. The reason that I would separate these two layout files is because I'm personally anticipating that I'm going to want to do some very different things for the readers as opposed to the authors. So we may end up with different fonts, different all sorts of things, different style sheets and resources and whatever. So I want to keep those things separate. That's just me. So if we pop back over to the browser, actually this shouldn't do anything yet because that layout isn't specified anywhere. What I want to do is create a new controller. Let's call it the readers controller. And in here we'll have class readers controller, which is just going to I did not spell RB correctly. If you can spell RB, let me just create a new file here. Readers controller.rb class readers controller, and then we'll just inherit from application controller and leave it there. And let's see, so readers controller, I'm going to specify a layout of readers, and then I think we can simply just say that this inherits from readers controller now, and obviously that kicks into effect, so that looks like it's working. What I think I'm gonna do is actually, I guess we could leave the home controller at this top level. What I'm gonna do though is create a new folder here, and we're gonna call this readers. And inside of this, we're going to want to have a post controller momentarily. In actual fact, just to kind of get it going, let's go ahead and move the home controller inside of there. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, and then what we're going to need to do is say module readers. Kind of doing a couple of things out of order here, so we'll have to kind of straighten this out in just a second. Okay, so now if we go back and refresh, it's going to be messed up. So there's no constant home controller. So if we go to our routes, and we're going to say route to readers / home index, and that should take into account that nesting. And it's going to say that template is missing. Okay, so we need to go ahead and create a folder in our views called readers, and then we can move the home down into there. So now if we refresh, we should be good. Okay, so I want to keep this video a little bit short. And so I'm just trying to lay some groundwork here, but I want to get at least one good thing done before we stop, because so far we haven't really done much yet. Let's see. So what I want to do is in my home controller, I want to get all of the published posts. So we're going to say post equals post.published. And that's not a scope that exists yet, if I'm not mistaken. So what we want to do is in here, we're going to create a scope, which is basically a database query. We're just going to say published, and this is how you write all of this. And then we're going to say where published true. I think that's let me check the schema really quick on the post down here. So yeah, we have published true. Okay. So, and we might also want to write how would we do that? Most recently published or something like that. We could just put that directly in published, but that would be kind of problematic maybe. So let's do scope most recently published. Same kind of deal. And then let's say order published at, and actually we need to put the colon here, and I believe that's going to be descending, I think. We'll find out in a second. And then what we're going to do is actually update this over here to say most recently published. You can make an argument that that's a redundant scope, because published and published at shouldn't be it shouldn't be not published if published at is there, but whatever, we'll leave it. Okay, so let's go ahead and close down a couple of things here. Let's take a look in our posts index on this page, and let's grab this. If you haven't followed along with me much, I do tend to copy and paste and then do tons of modification, but I'm a little bit lazy on the typing. So what we want to do is in our reader's home index, we just want to replace everything with this. And what we're going to do is, for now, we're going to link to nothing. So we'll just put a £sign in there. Card, postcard. Let's get rid of some classes that we don't know anything about. We can let's save this and see what it looks like if we just refresh. So we can see here that we have our posts showing up, but only the published posts. So if we go to localhost 3000 and we go to /posts, you'll see that we have 3 other posts down here that have not been published yet. If we publish one, and then we come back over here and refresh, we should have that showing up. Maybe. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, I don't know what happened there. And if we unpublish, because that one doesn't have anything in it, should be back to where we were. So I want to go check really quick on the Bootstrap, getbootstrap.com, and let's check the documentation really quick for cards. I think that's going to be in content, no, components, card. So let's copy this actually. And let's go ahead and come back over here, and I want to just replace all of this actually. No, let's put it at the top. And let's just align all of this a little bit better. Okay, so let's replace everything in here with what we've got. So we have post.title. Some quick text, some quick example text. We have our post.description, and then we can add a link, or say like read post, something like that, because I don't really want the whole card to be clickable in this case, which is what this link to wrapping around it does. And then this should have a header image. I guess we could have a default or something somewhere. But we have this right here. So let's go ahead and put that in the source. Mess that up. And let's not set the width in the way that they're doing. So what I want to do is, let's say just outside of this, let's say that there's a row. And then inside of here, for each one of these, let's create a column. And let's say that it's MD6 and then LG4, like that. And put that in there, and let's go look and see what this looks like. Okay, we don't need to refresh the Bootstrap site. That's going to look just the same. That's kind of not what I was anticipating. Oh, because I didn't take away the style. That would help. Okay, so that looks a little bit more like what I was anticipating. I don't like the fact that these are not the same height. We could do kind of a, I guess what would that be, Pinterest or something, where you have like jagged stuff, but that's not really what I want to do here. Anyway, that's something. So let's see if we can actually fix that a little bit and make these look a little bit more uniform, actually. So if we go back over here, let's add a class on this. I think we had this already somewhere else in our CSS, probably. So if we look up in here, we should have a we have a base authors postcard. I'm going to create a new file. Actually, let's make a new folder, and let's do kind of a similar structure. We're going to say readers, and then I'm going to do a new file, and we're going to say posts.scss, and then I'm going to need to require that here. So I'm going to put a little comment and say readers, and then we'll say at import, and then what do we want? Readers slash posts, like that. And then let's go check that out and see what that looks like. So if we say readers in here, and then say dot postcard, and let's actually just make sure what happens if I'm always doing sanity checks before I go too far. So let's do a quick sanity check and see what happens if we set the background to black. It's probably not going to do anything because there's an overriding thing. Let's see what happens if we do that. Okay, so our CSS is indeed loading. We don't want that black background, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Card, postcard. I don't like this image card top thing, so what I'm going to do here is say div header image. And we may or may not stick with this exact style. I'm not sure. And then we'll say style equals background image. We'll give it a URL, and then we'll just get this same thing from here, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, so if we go back and refresh, it's not going to show up most likely because there's no height or width on that div. So inside of our postcard header image, what we can do is give this a width of like, well, I think it's already probably 100% wide by default. Let's try this. I don't want to hack. I want to say height. And let's say 250 pixels, maybe. And then we'll say background size, cover, background position center. And let's go see what that looks like. These should be basically the same height now. 250 looks too much to me. Let's do 220, 200 maybe. Just kind of shrink it up a little bit, make it more of a widescreen kind of look. Maybe it was better before. Make 230, whatever. This is not important right now. Okay, the next thing I want to do is actually set the height of the card. So let's see how tall this card is. 287. Let's set it to 300 pixels. Actually, let's set it to height is 285 pixels. And then let's come over here and do two things. Let's truncate this post description, and let's give it a length of maybe 300 characters. and see what this looks like. I don't actually know how many characters that is, just eyeballing it. I did something weird, I suppose. Height 285 pixels. Why is my... I guess I read that wrong. Let me take that away and see if I looked at the wrong element maybe. Apparently those are not 300 characters either. So the card is 554. Let's make that 5. I don't know why I thought that was reasonable. Let's make that 550. And let's refresh and see what we've got here. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and... I guess 300 is fine. They're not truncated at all, so maybe that's too much. What's 200 look like? Just tend to... Maybe they're... Okay, so now you can see it's truncated right here. Let's make it like 250. Sorry, this is kind of how this goes when I'm just kind of working through this, just eyeballing it. The last thing I want to do before we stop for this episode is actually make these things separated a little bit differently. So to do that, let's pop back over into the code, and we just need to make a couple of updates here. So first of all, on our card body, we want to make this a deflex, and I'm going to make this flex column for making it vertical. I'm not a flex expert, so if I explain something slightly incorrectly, you'll have to forgive me. But then I'm going to put an MT auto here for margin top auto, which should push this to the bottom. And so there you go. That looks pretty cool. We could do something like make this a BTN light to kind of keep like a very minimalist theme or something like that. If we do that, it might look good. I don't know. I'm going to leave it alone for now. I'm going to really kind of revamp the design soon. If you don't want the button to go all the way across, you have to do something like this where you add a MR auto, and then it'll kind of snap back like it was. I actually kind of like that. Again, I'm just kind of like roughing in an idea right now. I'm really gonna make these series pretty thorough. I've got a few going on right now that I'm gonna extend and make them pretty in-depth projects if you go fully through the whole thing. So at some point in the near future, I'm gonna work out a more robust design, and that will be what we use. So in the next episode, I'm going to hook up the link here, so you click and you actually go to a blog page or a blog post to read it, and we'll style that up and make it look pretty decent. Once we do that, I'm going to step away from the styling aspects a little bit because everybody has very different opinions about that, so I don't want to go super deep into it. Even if I had to do something that looks awesome, you're going to want yours to look different, so I don't want to go too crazy with that. What I'm going to do though is set up some analytics and stuff like that so that you can keep track of things like page views and do it all within your own app, so you don't have to use like Google Analytics or something. If you're running a blog, I'm sure you have Google Analytics or whatever, so you'll still want those things, but it's cool to see how it can work internally and what tools you can use. Anyway, so I think that's it for this episode. It kind of went a little longer than I wanted. It's not perfectly planned out. I'm kind of building it out with you, so I hope you enjoy that. If you got any feedback, feel free to leave it down in the comments, and as always, subscribe to the channel if you want more like this. We're putting out new stuff every day. With all that said, I'll talk to you in the next episode.